Hi everybody. Welcome to our wellness webinar today, Wrap for Work. This is our fourth one, believe it or not. So this has gone by really quickly, and I'll start off by saying please forgive my hair. As you know, not everything is open, and so haircuts have not been a priority in the past month or so. So today we're going to be focusing on early warning signs, and then for some of you that are working from home as I am, some people talk about feeling really exhausted and not knowing why. So we'll be talking about some of that. We'll hopefully have some interaction from you guys that are watching right now. And I also wanted to throw out there that we did change from Wednesdays to Tuesdays, and if this is not a good time for people, feel free to email me and let me know what a better time might be in the week, better day, okay? So, I like to start off with a couple of sayings, and as energetic beings, our potential to affect others with our energy or state of being is both a great gift and a great responsibility, Deepak Chopra. And all great changes are preceded by chaos, also by Deepak Chopra. And a couple of times that I can think of in my life where really good things happened were after chaos. That's not to say that I wish chaos upon anyone or anything. However, in my life personally, those resonated with me because that has been true. And I think as energetic beings, our potential to affect others with our energy or state of being is both a great gift and a great responsibility, is that we have to remember that our energy, whether it's through our voice, through our eyes, our body language, it does affect other people. And to be kind and helpful when we can, especially during the time like this, during COVID. So let's recap for a second on what we've already gone through. We've had Seminar 1, Seminar 2, and Seminar 3. In Seminar 1, we went over the key recovery concepts, the Wellness Toolbox, which was a listing of things you've done in the past or could do to help yourself stay well, and things you could do to help yourself feel better when you are not doing well. In Seminar 2, we worked on our daily maintenance plan, describing yourself when you are well and listing things you need to do every day to maintain wellness. Developing cohorts and teams, email Baltimore. I've had about 4 people email me, so please, if you're interested on being a part of a team or a cohort, email me, Baltimore Gonzalez, and put in the subject line cohort team and let me know. Really excited about getting that going pretty soon. Seminar 3, we talked about what does wellness look like to you. Stressors, also known as triggers, stressors action plan. And remember that was external upsetting events or circumstances that produce discomfort. Things like family friction, work stress, a baby crying, loud noises, COVID-19, people becoming ill, people not wearing a mask, people wearing a mask. Please do remember that any of these, there's no wrong answer. It's whatever is a stressor or trigger for you is what it is. And then we also talked again about developing cohorts and teams. Now today's focus, we're going to be going over early warning signs. Then we're going to do an early warning signs action plan. We're going to be talking a little bit about why working from home can be so exhausting and how to make it better. And not to belabor the developing cohorts down anybody's throat, but we'll be talking about that again for a second, okay? Happy May is Mental Health Month again. We're also going to be doing a drawing. So if you would be interested in being a part of the drawing and winning a prize donated by the Morale Committee and Laura Luna, please email me your name. We may do some sporadic throughout the training depending on how many people we have live, okay? or the wellness webinar, I apologize. So I always like to go back and remind people that part of the wellness webinar and keeping ourselves well while taking care of others was the premise for this whole series. Keeping ourselves well while taking care of others. And so we started using WRAP, which is the Wellness Recovery Action Plan by Mary Ellen Copeland. And WRAP is a self-designed plan for staying well and for helping you feel better when you are not feeling well, to increase personal responsibility and improve your quality of life. The Wellness Recovery Action Plan helps people identify the most important components of staying well and is organized in 5 sections, which are the daily maintenance plan, stressors and triggers, early warning signs, when things are breaking down, and the crisis plan. So as you can see, you've already learned 2 of these parts and their plans today, the early warning signs and the early warning signs action plan. And just a reminder that WRAP is recognized by the Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, SAMHSA, as an evidence-based practice. Many of you may even see that we're going to, that in a lot of our trainings we've had, they are already talking about including this in notes eventually. And I received an email the other day from a director in Sanger who was asking me for some information on WRAP. So very excited about that people are taking an interest. And a reminder of the 5 key recovery concepts. Hope. Without hope, we don't have anything. Personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support. And I like to give examples. Hope to me is peace of mind. My whole WRAP is based on the fact that I want to have peace of mind. I want to feel healthy mentally, physically, mind, body, soul. So hope for me is knowing that things will get better, this too shall pass, and having faith that life is a roller coaster for me, and when I am at a low, that it's gonna come back up. And knowing that it may go back down again, that has been my experience, and having that hope, okay? So I wanted to put this one in here today, the Are You Okay? You know that you hear this at a certain time of the year, the Are You Okay? And you'll see banners, and I have read this to you before and I want to read it to you again. However you're feeling right now, it's okay. Fear, worry, anxiety, anger, grief, loneliness, panic, exhaustion, which we'll be talking about a little bit today, frustration, annoyance, they're all normal responses to this abnormal situation. We don't know how long this period of uncertainty will last, but we do know we can take responsibility for our own wellness even during a global health crisis. Acknowledge these feelings. I've been saying a lot to people since I started these webinar series and hearing myself speak, and be heard, reach out. Reach out. We all know that old saying, closed mouths don't get fed. If you need assistance, if you need to talk to somebody, if you need to self-advocate for yourself, be heard and reach out. So some of those things that I talked about, the worry, anxiety, anger, grief, loneliness, panic, some people are experiencing this yet again now that things are starting to open up again. Restaurants are opening up again, and although they may have guidelines, it's still getting some people angry and triggering people, maybe if they see somebody not wearing a mask. Or so acknowledge these feelings, and we have to remember that we can only control ourselves. And personally, I am still wearing a mask everywhere I go, and I'm not yet ready to frequent restaurants. But if you are, more power to you. Again, there are no right or wrong answers. There's what we're okay with when we lay our heads down at the end of the night. and we have to make those decisions for ourselves. So just like rap, we have to create a menu of life for ourselves and what's okay and what we want and what we don't want. So May is Mental Health Month. And I wanted to read this by Akea Red. She's a mental health advocate. I think it's Akea or Achi. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's more integral than ever that we all understand that it's okay to not be okay. You've heard me say this before many times. Because the stigma is more dangerous than ever. Being locked down in our homes for this extended period of time has only exacerbated the problem. And I personally agree with her. Being at home for a lot of people has been very detrimental to their mental health, their physical health. And so right now it's more important than ever to, again, acknowledge those feelings if you're not feeling okay, and to know that the majority of the world kind of feels the same way you do, okay? So we're gonna move on to what are early warning signs? What is Baltimore talking about, okay? Part of the rap is being able to identify and being able to self-identify, I should say, when something is going on with us that perhaps is not comfortable or is going to take us to a place that we don't want to go. So in this creating of your menu of life, you are acknowledging, I've said this in the past, but you do this when you're well. You create this when you're well. You're acknowledging what you go through when perhaps you need a little bit of assistance, or you need to go back and take a look at your wellness tools and what have I been doing? What have I not been doing that I need to start doing again? So early warning signs are internal signs that are present when you're starting to feel badly. These signs are usually unrelated to reactions to stressful situations, or they may in fact result from a difficult situation. So I want to read that again. Internal signs that are present when you are starting to feel badly. These signs are usually unrelated to reactions to stressful situations, or they may in fact result from a difficult situation. So if I am driving and a car cuts me off and I momentarily have a feeling about it and I'm in my feelings over that or feeling some type of way, then that's not necessarily an early warning sign. It's a reaction to something that just happened. As opposed to if I am driving and for no reason I feel like I cannot breathe or I feel like something bad is going to happen, that could be an early warning sign. Another early warning sign is if the air conditioning is out at work and you dread going to work, then that's feasible, that's understandable. It's going to be hot, this is Fresno. If you're dreading going to work every day, that could be an early warning sign. So you see the difference there. You're dreading going to work every day and you can't particularly think of a reason. So despite our best attention to our daily maintenance plan and to reducing our reactions to triggers, we may still begin to experience early warning signs. So just going back for a second, remember that our daily maintenance plan was things we need to do every day to keep ourselves well. And reducing our reactions to triggers were things like perhaps something that's triggering you at work. I used an example of a reply all email that goes to everybody and their mother, from behavioral health to Bakersfield, and people have a fit. It could be somebody not wearing a mask. So reducing those reactions. Well, now you notice you're still starting to experience something perhaps a little unpleasant that you're feeling. Those changes that let us know that we need to take further action to help us feel better. These were the early warning signs. So I'm going to give you some examples. Maybe you're starting to feel anxiety, nervousness, forgetfulness, inability to experience pleasure, lack of motivation, feeling slowed down or speeded up, being uncaring, avoiding others or isolating, being obsessed with something that doesn't really matter, displaying of irrational thought patterns, feeling unconnected to my body, increased irritability, increased negativity, not keeping appointments, changes in appetite, restlessness. And I want you to think of something for a second that, again, in taking care of ourselves while taking care of others, if someone handed you a list and felt any of these things, how you would support them, what you would do to support them, and at the same time ask you that are watching, how can I support you? How can your supporters support you? How can your supervisor support you? Some might look at this and go, well, this sounds like depression, or this sounds like something else, or maybe they need to see a doctor. And maybe you're right, maybe they do. That's up to each individual. You are the expert on yourself, and if you know that it is not like you to have increased irritability or increased negativity or not to keep appointments, then again, you as the expert on yourself would know this is an early warning sign. For me personally, living with a panic and anxiety disorder and OCD, I know that there's a amount that I'll say normal that I live with of anxiety, of OCD, and then I know when that starts to get exacerbated and I need to slow down. And that may even be when I say to my supporters, okay, I need you to help me slow down, make sure that I slow down, because that's part of my rap. And those supporters would know exactly what I'm talking about, which means, okay, or they may recognize it. My son, who is a huge supporter of mine, may say, Dad, you need to chill, slow down. I'll get that, I'll take care of that. And it's very appreciated. So on our next slide, those were examples, and you'll see here just a whole cluster of early warning signs that could happen for you. A falling sensation. I can tell you personally, as one who who lives with, I like to say lives with, anxiety and panic. Oftentimes, if that anxiety or panic gets bad or it's starting to get up there, I will feel that falling sensation. I've never fallen. I will get a racing heart, nausea, feel like I'm gonna pass out. Truth be told, the last time I did a wellness webinar for about 10 minutes in there, I felt that way. And I was reminded of, I can't think of his name, but the guy on TV who had his first panic attack on television. But there was about a 10-minute span there where I just kind of felt out of body. So for anybody who knows what that feels like, is you're just talking but you're not really present. Twitching, muscle tension, trembling, numbness, facial tic, tingling, burning skin, stabbing pains, chronic fatigue. I'll tell you guys a little story while we're on this one. Mickey Lafine, who was the therapist who 22 years ago assisted me with getting out of the agoraphobia, as I walked up these stairs to have an appointment with her, it was one of my first appointments, I told her that I was experiencing a lot of panic, and she had me switch chairs with her and get under the air, and she asked me what I was feeling, and I said, I feel I'm gonna pass out, I feel like I'm gonna die, and I'm gonna paraphrase, but she said, oh, that must be horrible. How many times have you passed out before? And I said, well, never. She said, and how many times have you died before? And I remember I started chuckling, and I knew exactly what she was saying. And I remembered that to this day. And I share that with you because when you are having these moments of the racing heart, or the lump in your throat, or the tingling, or the facial tics, do remind yourself if you have gone through that before, and then ask yourself, what did I do to get out of that, to stop feeling that way? And that can sometimes really reassure our brain and ourselves of, okay, I've been through this before. It will pass. It's going to pass. And again, perhaps looking in the past to see how did I make it go away before, or how did I make it dissipate before, so it wasn't as bad. Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide. So early warning signs identification. So this is going to be really, really, really important in making sure that we stay well. The whole thing is important, but in early warning signs, this comes before when things are breaking down, which we're going to go over next time. And so we don't want it to get over here. Not that we can't come back, but in early warning signs, you know, this is where we're swimming and we see the, what is that called, Brian, that warns us not to go any further in the water? That red thing that tells us if you go past here, you may drown. Buoy? Yeah. So a buoy. So this is kind of like we're seeing that. So we don't want to go any further, okay? We want to kind of keep it right here if we can. So if you could, if you have a book, I've offered to people, please email me if you would like a wrap workbook and I can get one to you. I've had a few people take me up on that. If you want to do it on a piece of paper, making a list of those internal clues which for you indicate you are starting to feel badly. You might not notice these signs at first because they can be subtle. Going back for a second on that list, if you're used to feeling irritable, and now again it said increased irritability, so these things can happen subtly. This is why, again, it's important to have supporters around us who are honest and also to be able to be honest with ourselves. So in the past, you may have ignored those signs that you were starting to feel worse. Now you're getting pissed off at everything. You know, and traffic's bothering you, and that person over there not wearing their mask, and why are they congregating in that swimming pool 4,000 miles away from here? You know, maybe things that bother you, but now they're starting to really, really get to you. So, however, when you recognize them, they let you know you need to take further action to prevent things from getting worse or breaking down. Okay. When you recognize them, they let you know you need to take further action to prevent things from getting worse or breaking down. So I can tell you for myself, if I'm starting to get a lot of anxiety and I don't want to drive, that's an early warning sign for me. If I don't want to drive down the street to, say, Starbucks, because I'm afraid I might have a panic attack. And again, bringing this back to everybody being the expert on yourself, there are people who are listening who will never know what it feels like to go through that. And that's okay. And there are those of you who have stories that I will never know what it feels like to go through what you're going through. The important thing is that we recognize our own early warning signs. If you are one who runs every day, 3 miles a day, and all of a sudden you haven't ran for 2 or 3 days, you may put that on your list as an early warning sign, or you may not. Again, there are no right or wrong answers. So on this next slide, it says, after you have identified your internal subtle signs of change that indicate you may need to take further action to stay well, you develop your early warning signs action plan. You will list ideas of how you can respond when early warning signs come up so you can take action when you need to. Following your action plan, you can reduce your early warning signs and avoid things getting worse or breaking down. Another example of mine that I would give you is when I become silent. When I don't want to talk, when I don't want to engage with others, when I don't think anything is funny. I love to laugh, I love to play around, and granted, yes, we are in situations where it's not the appropriate time or whatever, but I'm talking about if in general That's a huge warning sign to me and to my supporters, is if I'm just shutting down. That means something's going on. I'm going to be honest, if I am looking for something perpetually in my home office or in my room, and then I'm looking for something else and then something else, that's an early warning sign. And that's part of the OCD, but it's an early warning sign that perhaps I have had a little too much interaction with, say, going to the store and there's a lot of people, and then going somewhere else and there's a lot of people. And there's a word I'm trying to think of, stimulation. When I get overly stimulated, that can happen at times. So all it means for me is, don't freak out, Baltimore. Just slow down. Slow down, limit your interaction for the rest of the day or tomorrow. And it's okay, because I recognize those signs. So how you respond to your early warning signs may differ depending on the intensity of your situation. Have some wellness tools on this list. Include some that you must do and some optional things that you will do if you can, or that address the many different feelings and reactions you might experience. Refer back to your wellness toolbox. Review each item in your wellness toolbox thoughtfully. Remember, going back to our wellness toolbox is you like to garden, which someone did send me a beautiful picture of her garden, and she's waiting for her tomatoes to be ready to make some fresh salsa. I didn't ask her permission, I forgot, or I wanted to share her picture. I will for next time. So if you're watching this, email me and let me know if I have your permission. And you may have listed activities like relaxation, exercise, support groups, a warm bath, gardening, or getting a medication checked. Perhaps extra rest, planning a special diet, or seeing your counselor are in your wellness toolbox. Maybe crafts, singing, or calling a friend are tools for you. I'm going to ask in this part, if for those of you who are watching, if anybody would like to share either something that's in your wellness toolbox that helps you to feel better when you're not feeling well, or even perhaps an early warning sign for you that you need to step in and do something a little extra to take care of yourself. So I'll give you an example. I've shared with you, I'm very open about having my anxiety and panic disorder and OCD. And even when I've been asked many times throughout the year if that ever causes me any discomfort, that I'm so open, and it does not. I personally, and I'm not saying this is for everybody to self-disclose, I do, because I want people to know that it's okay and that it's very normal, and there are many, many, many of us who are out there who experience and live with different things. So when I respond to an early warning sign, let's say of I'm starting to get that anxiety, I'm starting to look for stuff that doesn't matter, like a ring from 10 years ago that isn't worth anything, but I need to know where it's at. Almost in a sense, needing to feel some control. So on my early warning signs, on my action plan is slowing down. Those things I've told you before, be heard, reach out, telling one of my supporters that I'm feeling something, or that I'm not feeling too great. I've learned in the last few months that taking a bath actually really works well for me. I am not one who tends to like baths, although I do love jacuzzis. But there's just something about baths that don't really appeal to me unless I'm in a 5-star hotel. But my particular bathtub, no. So there's something about the warm water and being forced to relax and not being able to get out of that water for a while that works for me. So that is on my early warning signs action plan. Meditating, you've heard me talk about this many times before. I meditate daily. I do deep breathing. I have apps on my phone. If you have Alexa, at home, you can ask Alexa to play a 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute. If you have access to YouTube, the internet, these are things, there are so many wellness tools that are free to you out there that you can go onto YouTube and watch pretty much anything. If you just want to hear the sounds of birds, the ocean, anything you want, you get to figure out what is going to work for you. I once said years ago when I was starting a rap plan that I felt very excited because I felt like I was taking control of my own wellness and what the remedies for my own wellness were going to look like. It was bad enough a few months back where in the same day I contacted my therapist, my primary care physician, got a massage, took a bath. That was an extreme early warning sign action plan. But typically, again, something that you choose that you know is going to make you feel better. And think of it for the next few hours. We don't have to make ourselves feel better in the moment for the next week. If you're not feeling good right now, ask yourself, what can I do in the next few hours that's going to make me feel better? If you're not working from home, if you're working from home, perhaps you need to be honest with your supervisor and take the afternoon off. We've all heard of Mental Health Day, people taking mental health days, and I think this is a good time to really start talking about that, because even though I think it's encouraged and we hear a lot about it and stuff, I do know from experience that there is still a stigma and that perhaps people will call in and say they have a migraine or whatever. I'm not sure that we're at a point yet with all supervisors from wherever it is you may work to be able to be that bluntly honest that you just need a mental health day. But in self-advocacy, as one of the 5 key recovery concepts, that is your right, is to not be okay. And again, to have a plan. Did we get anybody answer, Brian?
No.
Okay. So we're going to go on to the next slide. So I'm going to give you a sample plan for dealing with early warning signs. Doing the things on your daily maintenance plan, whether you feel like it or not. And that's really important, whether you feel like it or not. On my daily maintenance, I have that I need to make a phone call to a supporter every single day. Well, I don't feel like it today. I'm not in the mood. This is where you look at that plan and you go, okay, no, I'm going to force myself to do it. I always remember a saying I heard many years ago, take your body and your mind will follow. Do the things, tell a supporter, counselor how you are feeling and ask for advice, or don't. Ask him or her to help you figure out how you can take action, or ask them to just listen. Do at least 3 10-minute relaxation exercises each day. Simple exercises described in many self-help books that help you relax through deep breathing and focusing your attention on certain things. Write in your journal for at least 15 minutes each day. Spend at least 1 hour involved in an activity that you enjoy each day. Ask others to take over your household responsibilities for the day. You might also, depending on the circumstances, check in with your physician or healthcare professional. So I told you about when I did with my therapist and my primary care physician. Again, this is all going to be up to you. These are all just examples. Reading a good book if you like to read. Dance, sing, listen to good music, play a musical instrument, exercise, go fishing, or fly a kite. I think it's important too that you know what type of music makes you happy. I used to have a really bad habit of playing movies like The Notebook or Meet Joe Black, something that perhaps was not too uplifting, but I loved those movies. Maybe when I wasn't in a good space and I had to learn to put on a comedy or watch something that wasn't gonna, trigger anything emotional. So know what makes you feel good. Know what makes you feel good when you're in those moments where you're in the early warning sign stages, and what you're gonna watch, what you're gonna do. If you love to sing, know what kind of music you love to sing. You definitely don't want to listen to music that reminds you of something sad. You might want to listen to something that is uplifting for you. And I actually had a professional tell me many years ago to listen to music I did not like when I was not feeling well. And I know that might not sound like it makes a lot of sense. It actually did work for me at that time. I listened to stuff that I didn't like, and what he said was so that there was no emotional connection to anything I listened to. So for me, it did work at that time. Right now, not so much. Again, depends on where we're all at on the scale of recovery, on the scale of wellness, where you're at. So if you use this plan and it doesn't help you feel better, revise your plan or write a new one. Use your wellness toolbox and other ideas from workshops, self-help books, your healthcare providers, and other people who experience similar symptoms. So again, you can revise your plan. You can write a whole new one. You can take ideas from workshops, from listening today, from listening to each other. One thing that I think is really important is to listen. We never know when there's a moment where someone is possibly educating us to something that we didn't know. One of my favorite people in the world is Judge Judy, who says, God gave you one of these and two of these. So it's important to listen. You may miss out. So that's the ending part of the early warning signs action plan. I want to give a second to see if anybody has any questions or any comments.
Nothing right now.
Nothing? How many people are? Okay. So I do appreciate those of you that are live right now. And those of you that are live right now, we have something for you. And you're going to get a t-shirt which says Each Mind Matters, Combating Stigma. So we will have your names for those of you who are on right now live. It's much appreciated. Since we've offered people to be able to watch this at a later time, it seems like that's kind of happening more. I did do this with the intent of wanting it to be a little more interactive, but that's okay. I'm just so happy you're with us today.
So they'll have to email you directly, because I don't have their names.
Oh, you don't have the names. So you'll have to email me directly. I'm sorry. And tell me who you are, and if you could do that, when we're done. And much appreciated, okay? So this is off of an article. I cannot take credit for it. I did cite the author in the back about working from home can be especially exhausting. I absolutely fell in love with this article when I read it because I found it to be so validating for, there's a saying in a Courtney Love song, how are you so burnt when you're barely on fire? And this just resonated with me because it reminded me of that, of how is it that that many of us can feel so tired at times. It doesn't mean you feel that way all the time. And I've heard that from a lot of people, that they're just exhausted, and yet they can't really understand why. So when I saw this, it made me really happy to see that a lot of people are feeling this way. It's very validating to know that we're not alone, right? So remembering that this isn't your choice, that one of the fundamental elements of good mental health is autonomy, self-expression, and a sense of control. Many of us have been sent home and no longer have the choice to go to the office or work in our usual ways. This lack of choice can be frustrating and even disorienting. And I think what happens for a lot of us professionals and mental health professionals is we tend to try not to negate anything that we're going through because, well, at least be grateful you have a job and be grateful that you're not one of those who has lost their job and everything else. You can be both. You can be grateful for having your job and still feel frustrated about maybe being sent to work from home. Some people love it, some people don't. You can, just like you can feel grateful for having a car, but you're not necessarily going to be happy when that car needs 4 new tires or needs a new engine. Doesn't mean you don't love the car, right? So it is okay to feel both ways, and I think that we need to validate that it's okay to be frustrated during this time. It does not mean you are not grateful. I've heard some people say that, well, you should just be happy you have a job, and not to myself, but in other conversations and stuff. And I think we should just be careful with our words when we are listening to someone, that just because you complain about something or you're venting about something does not mean that you're not grateful. People vent about their husbands and wives all the time, doesn't mean they want to get rid of them, right? So the fix: find ways to infuse choice into your day as much as possible. Set your meeting times and retain control over how projects roll out. Perhaps you can control the sequence of your tasks or the flow of your day. Even planning breaks can give you a sense of some control over how your time is managed. So you may not think so, but subconsciously by doing some of these things could help you to feel like you are in control. And really, you are. You're going to take your breaks at 10:15, or I think most of us are having to email our supervisors at 8, and then at the beginning of break, ending a break, and so, yeah. You have to think about things that used to be automatic. Exhaustion can also occur because of points of friction in your day. When you were in the office, you were able to flow from one meeting room to the next, and it was easy to scribble things on a whiteboard to keep the discussion moving forward. Now these activities require more conscious thought. Getting connected via technology is rarely seamless, right? There's always someone who maybe isn't on mute or something, and you may have to learn new sharing software to co-create with your team from a distance. So the fix: keep at it. Do the best you can. As new ways of working become the typical, and as you learn new technologies, they will become more automatic, and your brain will be able to put less effort into them. I don't know about you guys, but I found it completely frustrating the first couple of weeks with Zoom and Skype and learning how to do them. And it wasn't that I was frustrated with having to do them, I was frustrated with not knowing how to do them. And just like this says, my brain, after learning how to do them, was like, okay, this is easy, just join, and now I'm on. And you miss people. You know, I said this last time, but I had somebody tell me they miss even the people they thought they didn't like at work. But you miss people. And one of the great things about work is the regular connections that we get to make with those who aren't necessarily part of our immediate circle. The coffee bar at the office provides the opportunity to run into coworkers, stay connected, and maintain relationships with people we don't necessarily see in our day-to-day tasks. Saying good morning to people. You know, and a reminder that whatever living situation that we're in does not mean that everybody else lives the same way. There are people who live alone. There are people who don't have family in Fresno or anywhere near. So we need to make sure that we are not comparing people and asking them to live up to the same expectations as ourselves when it comes to, I go home maybe to a loving family, somebody else goes home to no one. It's different for everybody. So we want to be aware of that. Your network has likely been reduced, and you may be missing your friends and experiencing some grief. So I'm not sure if anyone's even thought of that there could be some grief in there, that you're not seeing your friends. I saw certain coworkers every single day for the past 10 years. And yes, it was exhausting sometimes seeing their faces. And sometimes I loved it, but it was consistent. And with COVID, I don't see those people anymore. I don't get to check in with them daily like we used to, or do our daily walks, and I hadn't even thought of that until I read this article about the grief aspect of what's going on right now. So work is fundamentally social, and you may be missing your friends and experiencing some grief, like I said. And even for those who are more introverted, human connection is an important part of work experience. You're exhausted because you're not energized by these regular connections, and because maintaining those connections requires more conscious effort. And I know for me and in my past and in my life, there's a fine line between I like spending time alone and isolation. Very fine line that we have to be able to learn to recognize for ourselves. I am energized and fed with energy when I am around other people. I should say like-minded people. I love like-minded people, positive people. I love people who you just feel good around. And that gives me energy. I didn't get to see people at my local Starbucks that I've gone to for many years for a couple of months, and shockingly, I wanted to cry when I saw them, even though it was through the drive-thru. Their voices, just that comfortable, that comfort of something familiar. So reach out and connect in new ways using IM, Slack, text, or the like. This may seem unusual at first, but remember, others are likely feeling the same angst as you are. It will get easier and you'll establish new norms to keep you connected. You know, I reached out to one of my coworkers, Leah, who has been a huge part of my support system. A couple weeks ago, I think it was, and I said, well, I haven't really heard from you. And she said, well, it works both ways, mister. And I thought, it didn't occur to me that, maybe she was feeling the same way that I was, and that maybe I needed to take the initiative. And so that made me remember to, check in with her as opposed to waiting. And so at home, you're distracted. While working from home may have seemed like a panacea from a distance, it's just not that easy because of distractions within the home. I've had many of you tell me how work was a way to get away from your husbands and wives. Personally, I'm single, so I don't have to worry about that. But something as easy as that, work was a way to go and get your job done and get away. And then now you're at home and you're distracted by spouses, by children, by animals, which I'm sure we've all heard when we're on Zoom calls or Microsoft Teams. There's always that one person that has their dog, right, that's barking. So children and spouses or partners can obviously be distracting, especially if you don't have a dedicated place to work at home. But in addition, you may be distracted by the laundry needs to be done, or even by the walk you wish you had time to take. The fix: make time for the distractions as part of your day. Plan to spend your lunch hour with your family, or by getting a breath of fresh air. This is all going to be what you decide. So the fix on this part is all going to be what you decide. You're under new pressure you didn't have before. In research on work life, one of the things that matters most is the number of roles you must fulfill. And do remember that there are people throughout the world and in other countries that are much more progressive, where people have been working from home for a very long time. And I love these studies, and studies have shown that their productivity went up when working from home. And so when you go back to the first part of this, though, where it says you didn't have a choice, and I think that's the difference in what we're talking about, is that you didn't go to your supervisor or personnel and say, hey, can I work from home? You kind of maybe felt like it was done to you. Because really most studies have shown that people actually do like working from home and they're more productive. So in this, so now you're filling a number of new roles, and in this new normal, you may be having to do more cooking, because restaurants are closed, or cleaning because the service that helped with your home is no longer operating. In addition, if you have children, you're likely providing coaching for schoolwork or planning activities to keep them entertained. My hat's off to all you parents who do not have children in school right now. Yeah. All of this is in addition to trying to accomplish your work responsibilities. The demands on your time are increased and your capacity is the same or even reduced. The fix is to stay positive and focus on the things for which you are grateful. Now, again, I think acknowledging how you're feeling and the frustration and whatever it is you're feeling for lack of time and all that, taking your deep breaths or whatever you need to, and then going, okay, let me get into gratitude for a second. Gratitude has plenty of positive mental and physical impacts. They've done many studies on gratitude as well, people who practice gratitude daily and keep gratitude lists. And so appreciate the time together, appreciate your reduced commute, and appreciate the adaptability you're strengthening in yourself. I don't know about you guys, one of the things that I really appreciated living in Fresno was the air quality during this time, because there's not so many people traveling. And today it's supposed to be 104. I'll say that's one of the things I did appreciate about not working from home, is that the county kept it pretty freezing cold and I didn't have to pay the PG&E bill. That was pretty awesome. So I'm already looking forward to my PG&E bill in a couple of months. So the flow of information is overwhelming. In addition to the information you're actively seeking about the coronavirus and COVID-19, you're also flooded and inundated with more unsolicited information than ever. Businesses are reaching out to tell you about their responses. Your company is sending you regular emails to support you. You're in webinars like this that are supporting you. You're getting regular updates from your leadership to keep you focused, and you're receiving more solicitation than ever from consultants who are trying to survive. The deluge of information is increased and you're trying to cope. The fix: filter your information and prioritize. While you need to stay up to date, be firm about your boundaries and give yourself permission to not follow up on every single non-critical email. Give yourself permission. And after I started doing these webinars and I had said something about the news, I started limiting myself to the news and I started feeling much better. I used to watch the daily reports by the administration for, an hour and a half or so, sometimes up to 3 hours. And I felt much better when I limited myself to just the CDC or even DeJuan's updates. I find DeJuan's updates to be more factual than any that I find on television. And so I'm going to move along for a second, and we're going to go on to the cohorts and teams. If you're interested in being a part of a cohort that can virtually meet, while I've been here, I have my phone to the left of me, and I can see tons of emails coming in. So thank you. Would love for you guys to be a part of the cohort or team, okay? And cohort or team in the subject line. Resources, just putting this out there: employee assistance program. It's confidential. They have lots of services they offer, from financing to mental health to whatever your needs are. We have Deer Oaks. They are very, very good. Free rap app. There's a free rap app, and you can see it right there. You can download it, and it's available now for iOS and Android. I had this question come up. So I am with Fresno County Department of Behavioral Health. I am a RAP advanced level facilitator. I do not work for the Copeland Center, so I don't get anything out of promoting RAP from the Copeland Center, just to make that clear. I work for Fresno County DBH. And the RAP app is free, so they wouldn't be making much money anyway, even if I was. So then we've got SAMHSA on there, and I told you, about the article. And then our next webinar is going to be on June 9th from 12 to 1, and that's going to be when things are breaking down or getting worse. that may sound a little, oh, that's going to be a bummer. So we'll make it a little fun and we'll do something else that will combat it. I'm going to start it off when the things are breaking down or getting worse. But that is reality, is that part of this wrap is that you do get to a part that if when things are breaking down or getting worse, that just, we've now gone past that buoy in the lake and we are past the early warning signs. But again, we can come back. There's never a plan that we cannot make to rescue ourselves or for our supporters to rescue us and bring us back. And more that we practice and we change and we revise and we get this down and we learn that we are the experts on ourselves, we shouldn't or may not even get to that point of when things are breaking down or getting worse. And there's my contact information. I appreciate you guys spending your lunch hour. And for those of you that watch this later, please feel free to email me any thoughts, pictures, ideas, etc. And wellness to all of you. Have a great day.
Do you want to take any questions?
Oh, I am so sorry. So, Brian just reminded me, I am so sorry. Does anybody have any questions? Or I did glance over and see that somebody said they were not able to type in. So I'm going to take a look at that for a second.
Yeah, in order for them to leave a comment or ask a question on YouTube, they have to be logged in.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
So you have to be logged in to YouTube Live. Okay.
Which is free. They
Which-
can
which
create a
is
new
free.
Google account and they ties it together to the YouTube channel.
So Brian is telling me that you can create a free Google account and then you can log into YouTube, correct? And it'll tie together and it's free. And would they have to use their name, Brian?
Not necessarily, no.
So you wouldn't even have to necessarily use your name. And I'm glad this came up because maybe that's happening with some other people too and they're not able to. So if you could do that, then it would be interactive. So for those of you that have stuck with us, the first one I did on Microsoft Teams from home, and thank God for Brian Bishop. So now Brian Bishop sets all of this up, but we are using YouTube Live. So, and that's how we plan on using it in the future. So if you could just set up one of those free accounts and then we'll be able to see your comments. Anybody have any questions, comments?
No.
No, and I'm hoping to have a haircut before the next time I see you guys if I have to cut it myself. Thank you and have a blessed day. Be heard, reach out.